Also, if you see my Morim of Tafresh Nun Hey from the Rebbe Rashab, if I have that mazel. Oh, this is the Yem Yem Shekech. Yeah, you'd be short.
I can't find the other ones. It's too much.
Okay. Okay. So the Rebbe says like this in the 12th of Shvat. Intellect and excitement are two separate worlds. Intellect, a world cold and settled. Excitement, a world seething, unsettled and tumultuous. This then is man's Aveda, to fuse them into one. The unchanneled tumultuousness then becomes transformed into a focused striving and aspiration. And the intellect, a guide in a life of Aveda and action. Which means, it seems like also that everyone is contributing to the other, in a sense. That the unchanneled transforms into a striving thing, which means it's being utilized in the fullest measure. And the intellect is the one that is the guide, serves as a guide in a life of Aveda and action. So Mele, the Aveda is a person has to fuse them together. Two opposite extremes.
That's what the Rebbe said when he said take the lights of Tohu, put it in the vessels of Kalim.
Yeah, Tikkun. Right. So that's also, which means on one hand the loudness, on the other hand structured. That is all. That's why it is also begashmias when it comes to the physical person, the posture of the person's body. That because in ruchnius, in a spiritual sense, between and intellect and emotions, there is a buffer in order to convert from intellect and emotions, in the same sense, in a physical sense, in the physical body, that there is a buffer, a meitzer agoren, a channel between the head and the heart. That over there, all the amshachas and ashpos from the head go to the heart in a limited way. The Rebbe is using all the different lashonos. Limited, mugbal means restricted, like with boundaries. Umadud, measured, because mitzumtzum could mean also in a spiritual sense. Mitzumtzum means tzimtzum. Tzimtzum could be not only in the limitation in quantity but also quality. We say mugbal is the union of Akbalas, Pashat Begashmis, Umadut, that it is something that can even be measured. Not just, it's we know it's a gvul, but it's something Umadut. Achanikra b'shem Meitzah. It is called Meitzah. This is the Mitzrayim. After it goes through the buffer of the Meitzah Agorin, so then the Inyanim come down into the heart of the person, Shebei Heimemdim Bispashtus, that's when they stand with their whole fullest strength and extension, as it is related to midas in emotions, in the world of emotions, all their details, love and fear and their branches. Which means that this is where emotions are in full action. Because, so B'meila, there's two extremes here. On one hand, he starts with mind, calmness, settled, and then goes over to emotions, which is exactly the opposite. And it seems like from the Rebbe, that the Rebbe says that this was told to a child of 7 years old. Child of talking about the Rabbeim, but the Rebbe brings it now Yem. Oh no, I'm sorry, this child 7 years old is another inyan. Is that a person should know the difference between a person and an animal, that an animal never saw the sky. I think a person is able to look up. This is Pashat Inyan of Chinuch. Which actually, when we look at our Yem, it's a Pili Ployim, but we don't Chapsach. It is a side Inyan, but I'm mentioning it anyway here because this is something which people don't realize what the Rebbe Pashat gave in the Hayem. I mean, the Hayem, in addition to the connection that the Hayem Bechal is a compiled luach, a calendar that the Rebbe put together in 1943, late 42, early 43, and there are Hasidic sayings for every day. It's called Hayem Yem, from day to day. or today is day. It's also in English, and they have it in many languages, in French, in Russian, Yiddish, Hebrew. Today is
Before
the
he
day.
was the Rebbe.
Yeah, was the Rebbe, and he put it together. But this is something that the Rebbe in 1989 encouraged that people should learn it every day.
Friedrich Rebbe asked him to do it?
Yeah, this is the Friedrich Rebbe's transcripts, and then the previous Rebbe said that Hashem Yisbarech has given a special mazel, glik, luck, to my son-in-law to create a grand structure that has 383 rooms. Every day expresses something.
65.
No, this is Shana Muberes, a leap year, 383 days, 383 rooms, and every day says something. Yem yabia imer, and then it says, then it is the true hayem yem. Every day is a day.
Does the Rebbe take every page from somewhere else, from a source, or is everything? Does he say anything himself?
No, everything is from the previous Rebbe. Previous Rebbe and earlier also, but generally from the Friedrich Rebbe's writings. Previous Rebbe's writings. Huh?
383?
383 days, Shin Pei Gimel that year.
365 is a year.
But this is a Jewish
year. You
year.
have another 30 or 29?
No, 354. Al Shnas Levana. It's 365 is Shnas Chama. Shnas Levana, the sun, a lunar year is 354 plus 29 days. Lepel Mamish. So one of the inyanim that we find in Vayem Yem, mentioning briefly, is poshet that the Luach, the Rebbe once said in one of the years, that every year reflects the 70 years of a person. The Rebbe said the word. That because every year is considered Shana, Shana means it's considered Shana because it is called Shana Loshen Shinui. That everything that takes place in the general life of a person is reflected every year. The different seasons, the different Yom Tovim. And then it's called Shana the next year because Loshen Shniya. Shana v'chazar. Chazar v'shana, it repeats itself. That's the different Pirushim in Shana. As we look at our Yem Yem, just to mention briefly, we see how we take 70, we divide it into 383, see that every 5-6 days of the Luach reflects a year in a person's life. Every 5-6 days. We took briefly mentioning, we look, the first month is Yutes Teves. It's a month after the 19th of Kislev. So on the 19th of Teves, 18th of Teves, 19th of Teves, the Rebbe brings what the Tzemach Tzedek said, what the Tzemach Tzedek as a child learned Vaychi Yanke Beretz Mitzrayim, and he asked the Alter Rebbe, to say, how could it be that the best years are Mitzrayim? The next day, the Rebbe writes that the Alter Rebbe says there was a takana to learn Chumash and Pirush Rashi every day. How old is the child then? Ben Chumash L'Mikra. He's 5 years old. The Rebbe is speaking about the union of Chumash. A few days later, he becomes 6 years old. What does the Gemara say about 6 years old? That Chinuch starts then. What does the Rebbe write in the Ayem Yem Chav Beis Tevis, which is already in the slot of 6 years old? The same way there's an obligation to put on tefillin every day, there's an obligation to think of Chinuch of the children a half hour a day. And that's how it goes every 6 days. We just have to know what's happening in Shas. But Akopanim, why am I mentioning? Because there's the Inyan B'Negeh Chav Zayin Shvat. The Rebbe brings in Chav Zayin Shvat a very interesting word. That the Rebbe Rashab writes in a discourse, Hasidic discourse, that Hasidim, early Hasidim, pioneers, although they were dealing with something that's permitted to eat or to deal with, but they made a resolution, a vow in their mind, in their verbally actually, that they're depriving themselves, refraining themselves from enjoying it. And through this, they broke their evil inclination, the animal soul's desire. That day, child is 12 years old. By 12 years old, we find in Halacha, Mufla Samach Leish, that his Nedarim, a child 12 years old, is already taken into consideration.
His vows.
His vows are taken into consideration. What is a vow? Vow is something that he took Kadesh Atzmacha B'Mutar, although it is permitted, but still he deprives himself from it. So this is how the Rebbe is going through life of a person. Akopanim,